Gauranga Nityananda. Okay, there we go. So I thought we would continue one more day and talk about Lord Ram. Yesterday in Alachua was the appearance day of Lord Ram. I'm not sure in India or other parts of the world when they had it. But we had basically discussed the story, but there's some details that could be added to make it more transcendentally relishable. So I thought we could add some of those details. And this way we can become more absorbed in the Leela, as Lord Ram intended us to be absorbed by doing so many wonderful things. So the more we hear about it, the more we can immerse ourselves, or, as Prabhupada said, we can enjoy. One time, Prabhupada said something very interesting. He said that a guru takes disciples to enjoy hearing and chanting about Krishna, or so they can come together and relish Krishna consciousness. That's interesting, isn't it? Don't you think? Guru takes disciples to enjoy. And disciples take a guru to enjoy. So they all enjoy together. Isn't that interesting? So, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Paschachita Satarani Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we know about Lord Ram. Of course, if you're Indian, you would know about Lord Ram. Lord Ram is also famous in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in many parts of the world. He is known. And we were told that when the TV series about Ram was shown in India, basically the whole country would shut down while it was being shown. Even the government would shut down, which is quite interesting. So the Leelas of Ram are so attractive. So I want to see if I can. I have some more notes and fill in some details that we didn't discuss last time. So we'll start with Dasharatha. And Dasa means 10 and Ratha means chariot. And Dasharatha was given this name because he was such a great fighter that the demigods would often call upon him to fight. And it seemed like when you looked at him that he was fighting with 10 chariots. So he got the name Dasharatha, 10 chariots, because it looked like he was fighting in every direction simultaneously. It's one chariot, but he was moving so fast it looked like 10 chariots. So they gave him that name Dasharatha, and he was this amazingly powerful fighter. So there's a history of how Dasharatha came to marry Kaikeyi. And as you may know, Kaikeyi was the mother of Bharat, who asked Dasharatha that her son could be the king. And now there's a reason behind this. Dasharatha he didn't have any children at the time that he met Kaikeyi. He had a daughter, but he had no heir to the throne. The daughter was given to another king or another prince. And when he met Kaikeyi, he had been out near that kingdom, and he was given shelter or given a place to stay in that kingdom of Kaikeyi, King Kaikeyi. And Kaikeyi had a daughter named Kaikeyi. And the king had asked Kaikeyi to serve Dasharatha. At this time, Dasharatha was fairly old. So she served him, and as does happen sometimes, when a beautiful woman serves a man, he becomes attached. So in those days, as you know, kings had many wives. So he asked the king, "I would like to marry your daughter." King said, "The problem is, I would only allow that if my son will become the king." And he said, "Well, that's not a problem because I don't have any sons, and my other wives are unable to give me sons. So if Kaikeyi has a son, then he will be the ruler." Now, I think we discussed this problem, that what happened was, even she didn't have a son. And it was predicted that he would have a son after having a yajna where he would give the sweet rite oblation, and he would, a certain yajna would perform. This was predicted, and he forgot, and he was reminded about this prediction. He was doing a yajna in order that to appease the demigods, in order that they would bless him to have a son. But while he was doing that, he was reminded by his commander, Sumantara, I believe, reminded him. He said, "You know, it was predicted long ago that you would have a son after doing a yajna, which would produce a sweet rice, and that sweet rice you would give to your wives." And he said, "Yes, that's true." So they stopped the yajna, and they said what to do. And they said, well, they went to, I believe it was, they went to Vishvamitra. Or maybe I can find the story so I don't mess up any of it. Find that part. Anyway, to make a long story short, there's so many details, I can't remember all the details. But so, in order for this yajna to work, the priest had to be a man who had never seen a woman in his life. And so they were thinking, we have to ask Vishvamitra, because he'll know. Vishvamitra was their guru. He said, Vishvamitra will know, he knows everything. And Vishvamitra said, yes. There is a boy named Vrisaya Sringa. He's never seen a woman. They were thinking, well, how has he not seen a woman? Didn't he not see his mother? And so it's a strange story. Would you like to hear this story? It's kind of one of those stories that, would be good for Hollywood, and that sounds like mythology and hard to believe. Anyway, we'll test your faith and we'll tell you the story. So, there was a sage who was doing tapasya and becoming very powerful. And whenever a sage would become powerful, Indra would worry. Indra would think, oh, if he becomes powerful, he'll take over my position as the king of heaven. So what Indra usually did, this is quite interesting. See, what happens is, as you do austerity, you build up power. And so this sage was an amazing sage, and he had so much Shakti that it was said, if he got angry, he could burn the universe, or he could create anything, whatever he thought he could create. He had that much power from doing austerity. That much power. Can you imagine? And just whatever you think would happen. So Indra's worried. Well, if whatever he thinks could happen, he could think, let me take over the heavenly planets, or let me destroy Indra. So whenever things like this would happen, Indra would try to do something to break the austerity of the sage doing tapasya. Now you might think, okay, well, what would be a good way to break the austerity of a sage? And as Indra thought, you might think also, let's find a woman from the higher planets who's very beautiful, who will go and meet him and tempt him. And he's alone in the forest, and it's just this woman and him. So there's every chance that he'll give in to this woman. So he went to Brahmaloka, and he thought only the women on Brahmaloka are beautiful enough to allure this sage. And so he went to Brahma and said, please, can you give me a sage? And he told Brahma, I don't have much time. You have to give it quickly. Because Brahma, the time on Brahma's planet is different than on the lower planets. And so if you spend too much time there, when you come back, it's been like 1,000,000 years. Everything has changed. So he said, okay, I'll give you this woman. But this woman was a sadhu. She had really no interest in doing this. But because Brahma had asked her, she did it. And then he said, Indra said, so you'll have to try to allure this man. And she said, I don't think I can allure him. He's very strict. He's a sadhu. She said, anyway, I'll try. And her specific skill was chanting mantras. And he also loved mantras. So she thought, well, maybe I can allure him by chanting mantras. So he was in the middle of the forest. There was nobody there. She came there, began chanting mantras. And he heard these mantras. And who's chanting? She was actually chanting them better than him. And he turned around, and there she was. And she said, I've come to you because I want you to give me a son. And he said, you could get a son. I can bless you to get a son from Kasyapa or from others, but I don't want to give you a son. That's not my position. He said, no, it must be only from you. He said, why only from me? I could give you a son by Brahma. I could ask them. They'll do it. He said, no, it must only be you. And he's thinking what to do. And he said, look, and if you want a son from me, I will give you my semen, and then you can take that semen, and you could give that semen to anyone, and I'll get it. You or anyone. Of course, she didn't want it. She was just saying that. And he actually did it, and she's thinking, oh my God, what to do? And then she saw a deer, and she gave the semen to the deer, and the deer took it, and the deer gave birth to a human being with horns, and that's what Vrisaya Sringa means, a person, a human who has horns. And so, okay, so this Vrisaya Sringa said he was, let's see what happened. He was taken care of by who? Oh, no, that same sage. It was that same sage. His name is Vibhishana. So the sage found the boy. She left, and he found the boy. And the sage is thinking, why are all these things happening to me? I'm just trying to do tapasya, and this beautiful woman comes, tries to allure me, and now I'm finding this young baby with horns, human with horns. What's going on? So, no. He found a deer. The deer was crying. Oh yeah, so he found a deer. The deer was crying, and then the deer brought him to this young boy. Yeah, that's what happened. So this sadhu, Vibhondaka, decided, I'll take care of this boy. And so the boy was raised by him, and he learned all the mantras and so forth. And that's why they lived in the forest, and they were the only ones there. And that's why he never saw a woman in his life. He didn't know what a woman was. And there were only male animals in that forest. So he never saw even a female animal. He didn't know what a female was. And that was the person who had to do the yajna. Yeah, what a story. If I told you the whole story, I'm just summarizing it. There's much more to the story. So anyway, so they did the yajna, and then he was given the sweet rice, and this sweet rice, he said, if you give this to your wife, she'll bear a son. So he gave it to Kaushalya and Kaikeyi, and then they took a little of each of this and they gave it to Sumitra. So Kaushalya gave birth to Ram, and Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharat, and Sumitra gave birth to Lakshmana and Shatrughna. Now, what's interesting, as you remember, Kaikeyi was a very devoted wife, and Mantar, her maidservant, came to her to tell her the news that Dasharatha had decided to make Ram the king. Now, this was strange, because as we remember, why is Dasharatha making Ram the king when he had promised the king of Kaikeyi, Maharaj Kaikeyi, he had promised that the son of his daughter Kaikeyi would be the king. Apparently Dasharatha completely forgot. So Mantar, the servant, the evil servant of Kaikeyi, she said, did you hear the news? Dasharatha has decided that Ram is going to be crowned a king. And Kaikeyi was very happy. She was very happy about it. So very, very good, very good. And then Mantar said, no, this is not good. This is very bad. She said, if Ram becomes the king, then Bharat will just become his servant. And you will then just become the servant of that queen. You'll just be her maidservant. You'll be nobody. So she started poisoning her. And then she reminded her that Dasharatha had promised that your son would be the king. So that's interesting, isn't it? That Dasharatha forgot and Kaikeyi forgot. And now she's reminded, so Mantra got her very disturbed about this. And it is said that what she did is she put on dirty clothes and she was in her room crying, and she sent Dasharatha to come, and there she was, distressed. And so she said, this is what I want. And actually Dasharatha, he was okay. He had given her 2 boons. You remember in the battle, he had given her 2 boons. And I didn't remember what she did, but what had happened is, in a battle, as we said, Dasharatha was fighting demigods. He was a very powerful fighter. But in one fight, the axle on his chariot broke, and she was his chariot driver. Isn't that interesting? She was his chariot driver. And when the axle broke, she actually carried the chariot. This is Treta Yuga. The women were obviously very powerful, especially Kshatriya women. There's a lot of talk about gender equality. I have to, give me one moment, I have to clean the lens. It seems to be dirty. Is that better? So, look at this powerful woman. She's carrying the chariot. And after he did that, he was so indebted, because if it wasn't for her, he wouldn't have won the battle. Perhaps he would have been killed. She was actually carrying the chariot. She's that powerful. And he said, I want to offer you 2 boons. And she said, no, you don't have to. I'm your husband. I'm your wife. It's my duty. You don't have to offer me any boons. He said, no, I must offer you some boons. You must accept these. And she said, okay, I'll ask later. Her idea was, as far as I could understand, she didn't want the boons. She just was doing this out of love for him. And she said, okay, I'll take the boons later. In other words, like, I'm not going to take them. So these 2 boons were not going to be used, but Mantar reminded her, remember those 2 boons? Well, now's the time to ask him. And so because there were 2, the first boon she asked was that Bharat would be the king. And the second boon was that Ram would go to the forest. And Dasharatha said, I can offer you the first boon, but the second boon, that would kill me. He said, why does Ram have to go to the forest? Let's put Bharat on the throne, that's no problem. But why does Ram have to go to the forest? And he said, these are the boons I want, there's no discussion. Wow. So, basically what happened was that Dasharatha was so devastated that every day he was just drying up, and that at one point he couldn't bear the separation. And he just left his body. But the interesting thing was that when he went in exile, at that time Bharat and Shatrughna were with Kaushalya and another. Actually what happened was Dasharatha, he was so distraught, he rejected Kaikeyi. He said, you're no longer my wife. And he went to live with Kaushalya, and they lived in a different place, different palace or different city. He said, you're no longer my wife, I reject you, and I will live with Kaushalya. And then shortly after he died. So, what was I saying before that? There's another part to this story about, So Ram was told by his father, you have to go, and his father, of course, didn't want him to go. And he wished, in a sense he wished, he would disobey him. Disobey me, don't go. He said, no, I will obey you, I must go. And so he went to the forest. And then Bharat and Shatrughna had come back, and they heard the news, and Bharat did not want to rule the kingdom at all. So Bharat said, I'm going to the forest. At that time, they were in a place called Ram, Lakshman, and Sita were in a place called Chitrakoot, and that wasn't far from Ayodhya. So they went there, and many Vaishishta and others and many citizens went there. And Bharat said, come back, I don't want to rule the kingdom. So many people were there, come back, come back, come back. And, there was like a discussion, what should be done? And Janaka Maharaj showed up, the father of Sita. And, Rama saying, no, I'll stay. And Bharat saying, no, you should come back, I don't want to rule the kingdom. And Janaka said, he made the decision. It said that he got the indication from Lord Shiva. Meditate on Lord Shiva, worship Lord Shiva. And he got the indication what to do. So he told Bharat, it's not that you should do what you want Ram to come back, but you should do what Ram wants. And so they asked Ram what he wants. He says, Bharat, you rule the kingdom. When I come back, I'll take the kingdom. So Bharat had a realization that he was thinking of what he wanted rather than what Ram wanted. And when Janaka Maharaj instructed him, he realized, no, I should be thinking of the pleasure of Ram. I wanted Ram there because that would give me happiness. But Ram, he wants to go in the forest. So Bharat came back and he ruled on behalf of Rama, which was Rama's desire. And the interesting thing was, when Kaikeyi found out that so many people were going to see Ram, she said, I want to go also, because I want to retract the boon, I want him to come back. So she had regretted what she had done. She actually was a good wife, and just temporarily under the influence of mantra, she made this mistake. So she went, and she said, Ram, I take back my request. Please come back. No, he didn't want to come back. It was his lila to do this. Now, another thing is that these stories are told, of course, in Ramayana, but they're told in different shastras. And one shastra tells the story of Agni taking Sita differently. That we normally hear that Agni took Sita when either the ring of fire was made, at that time he took her, or when Ravana was pulling her through that ring of fire, that he pulled a Maya Sita, and the real Sita was taken by Agni at that time. There's another explanation. The stories are not all told exactly in the same way. Another explanation is that when Surpnaka came, you remember Surpnaka, she was a demoness who came in disguise as a beautiful woman and proposed to Ram, that you are so handsome and I am so beautiful, you should marry me. It's kind of interesting, how the love at first sight type situation is that, of course she knew how glorious Ram was, so who wouldn't want to marry Ram? So Ram said, no, I'm already married, you should marry Lakshman. And Lakshman said, no, I'm just a servant of Rama, I can't do this. And because I'm a servant, if you marry me, you'll become a maidservant of Sita, so that won't work. So, as we know, Surpnaka, with her demoniac powers, she manifested her demon nature because she was so frustrated. And she tried to attack Sita. And at that time, Lakshman cut off her nose and her ears. So, it is said, another explanation, it is said that at that time, Lord Ram thought that it's too dangerous for Sita to be here in the forest. So he called Agni and said, Agni, please take her. And then the Maya, or material form of Sita, was left, and the real form of Sita was taken away and protected. So that's another explanation, just because, yes. So I'm just going through the story and seeing if there are other details we missed. Oh yeah, there's another part we didn't tell. I mean, just, if you think about this story, which took place, is more than 14 years because it begins before, when they're growing up and so forth. And we're just describing little bits, but imagine I ask you, how was your day? And you start explaining all the things you did in detail. there's a lot of detail to what you did. Well, I went to work. How was work? Well, what happened at work? Well, a lot of things happen at work, and if you describe them all, there's a lot. So there are other shastras which are describing more of the details of the story than just the general story. So that's that. Right? So, Ram and Lakshman were trained in the Gurukul, so they knew how to fight. And Vishvamitra came to see Maharshi Dasharatha because he had a problem. And he asked Maharshi Dasharatha, can you give me something? And the kings would always be charitable. That was their dharma. They would be charitable. And of course, charitable to the Brahmins, definitely. So he said, yes, what do you want? Whatever you want, I'll give you. And he said, I want your sons to come with me because we're doing a yajna and there are demons which we cannot defend ourselves from that are destroying the yajna. Of course, Dasharatha was just overwhelmed. No, I'll give you anything, not my sons. No, I want your sons. And Vishvamitra, he said, look, I'm your guru, so, Dasharatha saying, but how could these teenagers protect you? And Vishvamitra said, they have the power, and it'll be good for them because I will also train them. So eventually, Dasharatha had to surrender. So they learned more about fighting. Of course, how can you teach God about fighting? But that was their lila. And then the marriage to Sita happened at this time. When they were with Vishvamitra Muni, as far as I know, it happened at this time. So they came, he said, let's go. There's this Swayambara of Sita, let's go see what's happening. So even Ravana came to the Swayambara, and so Maharishi Janaka said, okay, here's this bow, I think it was Shiva's bow. To get the hand of Sita, you have to lift the bow and you have to string the bow. And so Ravana, with all his arms, and all these other heavyweight kshatriyas, they couldn't lift the bow, what to speak of string it. And then Janaka thought, do we have no real men here? Is there no one who can marry my daughter? And then Ram comes up and he just picks it up like, it's like any ordinary bow. And then he goes to string the bow and then he breaks it. They couldn't even lift it up and he's so strong, he broke the bow. So then Sita was given in hand to Ramchandra. We didn't explain that. Okay. So we told about exile. So, no, there's some more drama here. By the time, the way this story is explained, by the time Bharat and Shatrughna came to Ayodhya, Dasharatha died. That period of time, for them coming back, Dasharatha left his body. So, you remember I said yesterday or the day before about this scene between Bharat and Kaikeyi? You know what he told Kaikeyi? He said, you are no longer my mother, I reject you. And he said, I would chop your head off But I know Ram would not appreciate that. But otherwise, I would kill you. He was so angry. And when he came back, he said, what's happening? Why is everybody so upset and where is Ram? And she just told him what she had done. She said, you're going to be the emperor and he's exiled. And then she said, I just did that for you, thinking that he would like that. He was so angry. So I would chop your head off. But of course, Ram saw her as mother, so he knew Ram wouldn't appreciate that, but he was that angry. And he rejected her. So she was rejected as Dasharatha's wife, and he rejected her as her mother. Wow. And of course, after all that, she went and asked forgiveness from Ram and begged him to come back. So then, as we said, that they decided, Janaka decided, no, Bharat, you will rule. Okay, then Surpnaka came, and then we have, of course, the story of that. What Surpnaka did is she placed the seed of desire for Sita in Ravana's mind. Of course, Ravana came to the Swayamvara, so he wanted to marry her, but she was saying, Sita's really meant for you. She's not meant for Ram, and you should get her. And she really placed that seed deeply in his heart. And so he called Maricha, Maricha. He said, we will go together. And so they went together. He flew in on his airplane. He had some kind of flower airplane. He flew in and he dressed up like a sannyasi. And when she was reluctant to go over the line, he said, I could curse Rama and he could die. Yeah? He said things to frighten her, Sita, into walking over that line. And so, as you know, Ram ran after the deer, who was Maricha, and he killed the deer. And the plan was, because they already knew Ram was going to run after the deer, so Ravana said, Ram's going to run after you, and so he'll be gone. And then he said, okay, Ram will be gone. Ram's going to shoot you. When he shoots you, call Lakshman, save me. So they had the plan, and the plan worked, and Lakshman would leave. And as we said the other day, that Sita intimidated Lakshman because she felt that he was just staying there. And she said, look now that Rama's dead, Rama's killed, you're staying here so you can marry me? That's what you want? You want him to die? So that way he made the plan, and the plan worked according to exactly the way he conceived of it. So then Ram goes to get help. He says, okay, we need help. Sita is running all over. Where's Sita? Can't find Sita. And then he needs help. So he hires or gets help. He speaks to Sugriva, as head of the monkeys. And Bali Sugriva's brother, had become his enemy, and Ram killed Bali. And so Sugriva felt obliged. So then they make their plan. Okay, so they're going to have to find Sita. Hanuman finds Sita, as we said, and then they make their plan. And then we didn't tell the story about Vibhishana. As I remember, Hanuman, when he was going all around looking for Sita, he looked through the window of the house of Vibhishana, and he saw that Vibhishana had a deity of Ram and was worshipping Ram, that he was actually a devotee, or worshipping Vishnu, I forget. He was actually Vibhishana, the brother of Ravana, was actually a devotee. So But Vibhishana defected, but in some accounts of the story, he didn't defect. It's that Ravana didn't want him because he was always telling Ravana to do the right thing, and Ravana didn't want that advice. And just get out of here, I don't want you. Whatever the case was, Vibhishana defected, and when he defected, he came to Ram and asked for shelter. But the associates of Ram thought, this is a trick by Ravana. This is Ravana's brother. So it must be a trick that he's coming as an ally. But he's just going to spy on us. And they said, don't take him. And Ram said, he's surrendered to me. I have to take him. So this is, and Ram said, there's a shloka, whoever surrenders unto me, I give them protection. Whoever makes me their own, I give them all protection. So Ram said, I have to give him protection. He's surrendered to me. We have to. So obviously it turned out that Vibhishana was not coming there as a spy for Ravana, but he was coming as an ally of Ram. He was a devotee of Ram. And as we said, it was because Vibhishana had all the intelligence that they needed. He guided them what to do. He knew exactly what had to be done. Okay, if we move this, then you get to see Prabhupada, right? Better? Hare Krishna. Yes. So, okay, I could read to you some amazing things. Why don't we read and discuss, these may be things you've never heard. This is about Lord Rama's childhood. And these are from other shastras outside Ramayana. These are not stories that are known. So we could read and discuss, and then if you have any questions or comments, you could make them. But I think this will be interesting. So, when Ram first started learning archery, Vashishta told Dasharatha, I don't want you to be here when your son is learning archery. And Dasharatha said, but it's a tradition that the king sits and watches the son, how he holds the bow. Vashishta said, yeah, but it's not the tradition that you produce children from sweet rice. This is a special. Your child is not ordinary. So he went back, and the educated. So all the education he was getting from Vashishta was all confidential education, only for them. So then Vashishta got up and he circumambulated. Well, there was Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. They were all in the school of Vashishta, and he got up and he circumambulated them. And he didn't want Dasharatha to see that he was actually worshipping them. So he said, you leave. And then Vashishta said to them, so Vashishta knew who they were. He said, you always do this. Whenever you take an incarnation, you select someone to be your guru. And so you've selected me. So, and then your guru has to teach you. He has to teach you, but you already know. He has to teach you what you already know. But that's what you do. As an example, that's just what you do. That's your lila. So he's telling them, I know who you are. Like this. So he said, I'm taking this role as your guru, so, please forgive me if I make any offense. So one day, Ram and Lakshman saw a girl walking, and she had a huge nose ring. You've seen India, big nose rings. And she had a water pot. And Lakshman looked at it and he laughed. He said, "Look at that nose ring, it's so big." Ramachandra said, "Vasishta's looking away, so let's do some pastimes." So they looked around and they saw an arrow, and they took that arrow. But they hadn't been taught how to do archery yet. And Lakshman said, "I'll make the nose ring small," and he shot the arrow. And while the girl was walking, the arrow came next to her nose and started pouring some sort of mystical substance on the nose ring. And it became so small they got it stuck on her nose and she couldn't breathe. And then she dropped the water pot and she was trying to breathe. But she could only breathe in one nostril and she was confused. So she began to call, "Help, help." And Lakshman said, "Oh no. Now Vaishishta's going to hear." You ever heard this story before? No. You haven't. Now Vaishishta's going to hear, and it's going to be a problem for us. Ramachandra said, "Don't worry." And he shot another arrow, and that arrow made it big enough for her to breathe. So she turned around and said, the girl said, "What are you doing to me?" And they replied, "Oh, we made your nose ring small. But it was too small, then we made it big." "You made it big and then small?" she asked. "I don't believe it." "Oh, you don't believe it?" Lakshman said. "So then we will take it off." And then he shot another arrow, which took the nose ring out of her nose. And all this was happening without touching her face. And then the nose ring was flying in the sky and she began crying out, "My nose ring, my nose ring." And Ram fired another arrow and put the nose ring back in her nose. So they had a lot of pastimes with archery growing up. So Vishvamitra comes to Dasharatha, this story we just told. He's known for his anger. If he gets angry, you don't want to be around. You don't want to be the object of his anger. Like there's all this tapasya, all the strength of his tapasya would come out in his anger. So once he was sitting in meditation and a bird passed stool on him. It's natural for birds to pass stool, and it's natural for a rishi to sit under a tree. But the stool on his head was not natural, and Vishvamitra got very upset. He looked at the bird and burnt it. And he used up 50 years of tapasya in burning the bird. Because that bird had a long lifetime, he reduced it and suppressed it by his tapa. So now he lost his strength of that austerity. Then he got up and said, "This situation will make me remember that incident always. So now I will go to another tree." And then he performed more austerity for another 1,000 years, and he was spending his whole life like this. So Dasharatha looked at Vishishta and said, "Vishvamitra is here. What am I supposed to do? I don't know what wrong I did. Why he came to my palace? Because he only goes to curse people or kill people." Vishishta said, "First of all, you must go from here to the messenger and tell him to say that the whole kingdom is yours. I am just taking 2 minutes to walk to the entrance. Please don't lose your temper." So they were assuming that Vishvamitra was angry. And so the strategy was, send a messenger and tell him, "Don't be angry, the whole kingdom is yours." King Dasharatha said, "The whole kingdom is yours. He will only take 2 minutes to walk here. He wants you to be peaceful and take this nice asana." Vishvamitra said, "I don't want asana. Where's the king? Bring him here." By the time Dasharatha got there, he fell at his feet and said, "What do you want? If you want the whole kingdom, take it." "What?" The rishi said, "I'm not into kingdoms. I had a kingdom." He was a great prince, a kshatriya. By some arrangement of the Lord, he had become a Brahmin. "I don't want your kingdom. I've come to ask something. You must tell me. You will give it." So this is the story. A little more detail about asking for his sons. Dasharatha was thinking, I wonder what he wants. Maybe he wants my head. I don't mind. But he's thinking in his mind, don't ask for Ram. You can have my head, but don't ask for Ram. Dasharatha said, okay, ask what you want. And then he said, I want Rama and Lakshmana. And Dasharatha immediately fainted. When he woke up, Vishvamitra said, see, you fainted. This means you don't want to give. And you lied to me. I'm a rishi, and you lied to me. And that you will give everything, and now you won't give. I'm not going to take them away forever. I only need them for a small purpose. I'm going to do a yajna. Someone is passing stool and urine on my yajna. I want these children to come and play there. Then the demons will go away. Of course, Dasharatha was saying, look at, I can send my whole army. I go, no, I don't want your whole army. So Dasharatha, he fainted again. Then when he got up, he said, okay, what could he do? He had to give them. And then he said, why don't you take some rest? Here, you've come a long way. And Vishvamitra said, no, I don't rest in palaces. Where's Rama and Lakshmana? Give them to me. And so they left, went through the forest, and Vishvamitra telling them stories, and Rama and Lakshmana, they were really happy. It was like a vacation for them, just hearing stories, going through the forest, going swimming in lakes. And Vishvamitra was a really good teacher. He taught them everything. How to swim, how to fight, hear all the stories. And then Vishvamitra told him in the evening, now, sit here and listen to these mantras. I'm going to teach you some powerful mantras. One is called the Bala, strength mantra. Another is known as Adi Bala, great strength. You may need them for these demons. These demons were around the yajna. They were disturbing the yajna. So Rama and Lakshmana listened to the Bala and the Adi Bala, and then they massaged their teacher, and Vishvamitra took rest. And the next day he woke them up and reached the ashram, their ashram. Then the demon came. It was a demon called Maricha. It's that same demon who became, as far as I know, it's the same demon who became a deer. Wherever Maricha would go, the trees would be falling, the rivers would be flying up in the sky, stars would be falling, animals would go crazy, the birds would scream, the rishis would die. Maricha's breakfast was, he would eat sadhus for breakfast. Whoa. Hare Krishna. For lunch he ate something else like kshatriyas, but breakfast was sages. He was a cannibal. So Maricha was coming there, and with him Dushana. His very name is the same as the character Dushana. Dushana means all bad things. His father named him like that. In other words, he must have come from a good family, but he was like the black sheep, so his father named him Dushana. You're like bad. Like what? Imagine your father gives you that name. What's your name? Dushana. Dushana, all bad things. You're the personification of everything bad. That's your name. You probably don't want that name when you get initiated. So now Vishvamitra, he wants to do a yajna, and he needs Rama and Lakshmana to protect. So he's doing the yajna. And he looked at Ram to signal that the demons are coming. Ram looked at Lakshman and said, Lakshman, what are you going to do? Lakshman said, yes, we will do something. So Lakshman took several arrows, shot them in the sky. They went up into the sky about 3 or 4 miles. And then from each arrow came 1,000,000 arrows, and altogether they formed a huge wheel of arrows, and this wheel started circling on the top of the fire. So Maricha and Dushana came, and all they saw was a wheel and some spokes. Where is the fire? I told you I wanted to pass water 3 hours ago, and you said I should wait till we get here. There are such demons, they pass urine on the yajna. That's like fun for them. I've been holding it in. I can't see the fire. What are you doing to me? Let me go past. No, no, Maricha said. Vishvamitra's fire, that is where we should pass. But I can't see the fire, I only see the wheel. Then Maricha said, this must be a trick of these Brahmins. Let me come closer and see. So he came closer, and as he came close, he got stuck with one of the spokes of the wheel, and he was thrown miles away. Yeah, very far. While he was already thrown, Ramachandra took one blade of grass and he threw it at Maricha. He got stuck on his back and carried him to the ocean. He fell into the ocean, and after that he never touched the Indian land again. He opened an ashram and became a Babaji somewhere in Sri Lanka that didn't even go back to see his family. So I guess maybe it was not the same Maricha. That was what happened to Maricha, and Dushana was killed. All this killing was done by grass. Then the yajna was over, Vishvamitra came and he said, what a great, wonderful thing you did. I saw Maricha flying away and falling into the ocean. Then Vishvamitra said, there's only one small question I want to ask you. What about Bala and Adi Bala and all those mantras I gave you? Ramachandra said, well, those mantras are for emergency. Grass is sufficient for the demons. Then Vishvamitra said a famous verse that for a mighty person even grass becomes an astra. Ramachandra is so mighty, he's the source of all Bala. So why should he take Bala and Adi Bala mantras? And this way he finished the demons. Hare Krishna. Interesting story. Oh! Hare Krishna. Would you like to hear one more chapter? It's not really a book. This is stories. This is stories. This is called Unknown Stories. Wow, that's a big chapter. This is a chapter on Vishvamitra. At the end of class yesterday, we were talking about why Ram had banished Sita, and it seems unjust and so sad and so forth. And we were saying it's all part of the Leela. And yesterday I was hearing a talk by Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he was saying that one time the gopis were chastising Krishna, telling him that he didn't know how to deal with women. And they said, just like the way you dealt with Surpnaka, you don't even know how to deal with her. And so they knew about Lord Rama, and they knew he was Ram. Isn't that interesting? So how that Leela is now going into the Krishna Leela. Anyway, so and just to sum up what we had discussed yesterday, in any Leela that Krishna does, obviously everything has a purpose, which is to bring us closer to him and to make us more attached to him and enable us to relish rasa. So we always want to understand the Leela in terms of how this will increase rasa, or the many things that the Lord is teaching by this Leela. So even though, as we said yesterday, in some parts of the Leela it appears to be unjust or immoral, we have to understand what Lord Rama is trying to teach. And one thing also that Prabhupada mentions is that one problem that people have with Krishna's Leela, or the Leela of his incarnations, is that people foolishly try to imitate and think, well, if God is doing this, he's doing this as an example, and so we're meant to follow it. And they even take Krishna's activities with the gopis as an example that they're meant to follow. And although we know Ram is coming with a different purpose, he's coming to live a dharmic life and establish dharma, we have to distinguish what dharmic activities we can follow and ones we can't follow. So we had discussed yesterday that the banishing of Sita could be something that someone may want to follow, a husband or a wife banishing their husband or wife. But the banishing of Sita actually just increased the rasa of the whole lila. And it was also done, as we said, because Rama is the king, and as king he has to maintain his reputation. So there are certain things obviously we cannot imitate. So we need to understand when Krishna is acting as an example and when Krishna is acting only in a specific way that applies to him and not to us. So I think that's important in understanding the Leela. And in that way, we're meant to relish even the pain of all the tragedy within the Leela. It's meant to have its own kind of relish because sadness is a kind of rasa, just like people like sad songs, isn't it? Like some of the most popular songs are sad songs. So Lord Ram creates a lot of sadness in his leelas. Yes? Sad songs. So sad leelas create a kind of rasa, a kind of pleasure. Right? So you want to hear this story about Vishvamitra? You want to hear more amazing stories? You have time? Were people aware that Ram was God? Some. But interesting. It's said in the Battle of Kurukshetra, those who appreciated Krishna's beauty, who weren't inimical to Krishna, got liberated. So even if you don't know he's God, but you appreciate him, that's enough. They may, like Prabhupada said when Krishna was here, not everyone understood his position. There has to be some qualification. So they may, some may not. And in order to create Leela, that's up to Krishna, how he wants people to see him according to the Leela and how it moves. Certainly, Vashishta knew who they were. So some will know, some won't. So you want to hear about Vishvamitra? This is a long story, but let's try, see how far we get. Vishvamitra is not just a Gurukul teacher or a mystic yogi. He's a Kshatriya who wanted to be a Brahmin. But one day, he was going on a big hunting tour, and the tradition was that when you pass by Gurukul or an ashram, kings must stop. And they must go there and offer obeisances to the sadhus. And then the sadhus will feed the king. Because when the king's in the forest, he doesn't have much. So they'll go there and they'll feed him. And then the kings, after they eat, then they'll make some donation to the sadhus. So Vishvamitra is traveling, and he had 100 sons. And he saw a small ashram, and he looked down in the ashram, and he saw 4 horses and a stream. And Vishnu thought, my army of 100 sons shouldn't go. You all stay. It is a custom that I should go and respect the sadhus, and then I will go there and I will come back. And if he offers to feed us, then we can see he can feed the whole army. So he went down there, and there were two brahmacharis washing clothes in the stream, and he asked, whose ashram is this? The brahmacharis replied, this is the ashram of Vaishishta. Vaishishta? He's in my country and I didn't even know? He came 3 months ago, the brahmacharis replied. He would always go like that. He stays in a place for about 300 years and then he moves to another place. Because too many students come there and he doesn't like a big population. So whenever there is too many people, he disappears with 1 or 2 students and goes to open another school somewhere else. Vaishishta. He has so many disciples, he leaves them and he goes somewhere else and he brings 2 brahmacharis and he starts a new ashram for about 300 years and then he leaves after 300 years. He's got too many disciples. Hare Krishna. So the brahmacharis brought Vishvamitra before Vaishishta. Vaishishta was making some thread from cotton. He was wearing a gamsha. And so Vishvamitra comes, and he's wearing a crown and gold. And took his crown off, touched Vaishishta's feet, and then he said, I am Vishvamitra, Koshika, and I'm on a hunting trip, and I have 100 sons who I've left on the highway, and I have come here just to see you. So you please bless my kingdom. Vaishishta said, how is it possible that you're coming to my ashram and going without a feast? Vishvamitra looked at the house with its grass roots, cow dung floor, and the whole ashram. There's only 3 or 4 horses. You're going to give me a feast? How will I eat without my sons? No, your sons, your army. Your castle, everyone. Bring them here. Bring it on. But where will they sit? You have only 4 huts. Bring them here. Vaishishta said, no problem. So Vishvamitra is thinking, if I don't bring them here, he's going to curse me. So he got the sons, asked them to come down. The sons are thinking, how the same thing, how are they going to feed us? He had all these chariots, horses. But Vishvamitra said, no, you have to come. I don't want to be cursed. Let's go down there. And when they were going down the valley, they saw that all of a sudden there was a big town, and palaces and roads and swimming pools. People were running out of the city. And Vishvamitra was thinking, this is amazing. Just in the time of closing my eyes, there's a big city. It's bigger, it's like bigger than my city. And Vaishishta came out and said, what are you doing? You must all go take bath. Feast is already prepared. It will get cold. So after they took bath, they came and thousands sat down on, I guess Vishvamitra was with thousands of disciples, not hundreds. They sat down in rows, but they didn't see any plates or anything. And Vishvamitra said, well, how are you going to serve us? Vaishishta said, think of any plate you like, and think of any item you like, and you can think of any quantity you like, and you will get it. Wow, that's dangerous. If you had that Shakti, whoa, that would be dangerous. So Vishvamitra thought of a diamond plate. Boom, there the plate was. And then whatever he thought of eating, it just came onto the plate. And one person thought, what does Indra eat on his birthday? I want that. And then boom, it showed up. And everybody got everything they wanted. And they're really satisfied, but then they wanted to see a dance. What dance do you want to see? Vaishishta said. Vishvamitra said, the dance that is seen by Narayan in Swetadeep. I want to see that. All right, you can see it. Immediately there was a stage. There was a wonderful stage of celestials of Vaikuntha. And Vishvamitra was so envious. He was thinking, what is this? Some Baba, he's having so much opulence, and I'm a king, and I look like a beggar in front of him. So he asked Vashishta, where are you getting all this opulence? I'm sure it's not in your beard. Like sometimes yogis have power in their hair. No, it's not in my beard. It's my cow. Then he clapped his hands and he said, Kamadhenu, come here. And then a Kamadhenu came. This cow had a long tail like a braid and a peacock feather on the back. It had breast of a human female on her chest and the body of a cow. And in her whole body is the potency of all the demigods. Wow. This cow, well, Radhika said it sounds like the creators of Peter Pan got their ideas from. Whether they got their ideas from here or not, because Krishna already thought of it, that means they could think of it, because they can't think of it unless he thought of it. So, he's in their heart. He already thought of all this stuff. I always thought, what if you had the Shakti that whatever you thought you could have, man, your life would be a mess. Until you become purified. Oh my God, yeah, you'd have a lot of good things in your life, but you'd have a lot of problems. I wonder what it'd be like to, boom, and it happens. Yeah, that would be a funny play, wouldn't it? If you had anything you desired, and all the crazy things we think, and they would all manifest in the play, and the person's life would actually become horrible. So only desire service. So, this cow came when the milk ocean was churned for nectar and was given to Vashishta by the Supreme Lord because he performed wonderful sacrifices, so he needed a lot of wealth. Where could he go? Because the kings were such small-timers. Sometimes they would have wealth, and even though they had it, sometimes they would say they don't have. So he gave this cow. You can get anything from the cow. Vishvamitra said, I will give you 1 million ordinary cows. You give me this cow. Vashishta said, you must be a fool. 1 million ordinary cows, why should I take them? And give you this special cow. If you give me 1 million Kamadhenus, then I can think of giving you this one. Vishvamitra said, according to Shastras, whatever is in this land belongs to the king, and I am the king, so it belongs to me. Vashishta said, look at the Kamadhenu again, Vishvamitra. So Vishvamitra looked and noticed that it was 4 feet off the ground. This cow does not belong to you. Only if it touches the earth does it belong to you. So Vishvamitra was defeated. He said to Vashishta, look, you may have so much tapa, but I'm a Kshatriya, and I have so much strength, 100 sons. I'm not going to ask you for the cow, I'm just going to take the cow. So he came behind the cow and started to pull, and his 100 sons were helping. What are you doing? The cow said to Vashishta. You're my protector and you're not doing anything? This malecha is taking me away? Vishvamitra said, you are calling me a malecha? Yes, you are taking the property of a Brahmin, so you are a malecha. At least now you are, or in the next life you're going to be. Why are you doing this? This is nonsense. And even the Lord will not be tolerant of this. You will be finished. Your whole dynasty will be finished. This is my curse. Vishvamitra said, you are a cow, so don't talk so much. Just come with me. Then Vashishta said, don't do this. She does not like it. If she liked it, then you could take her, but she doesn't like it. Vashishta was keeping his anger inside, not showing it. You keep quiet. He told Vashishta, keep quiet, I'm talking to the cow. Vashishta said, where are your 100 sons? I will show my power in them because I don't want to finish you. If you are there, you can produce another 100 sons. Show me your sons. Here are my sons. And then Vashishta looked at them and they were all gone. And then he said to Vishvamitra, do you want to become a heap of ash? Then you better run away from me. Then Vishvamitra in great disgust left. He went to the Himalayas, performed austerities for 300 years to please Mahadev. Then Shiva came and asked, what benediction do you want? There's one great thing about a benediction from Shiva. If you take a benediction from him, it is only for your destruction. His benedictions will only destroy. They will never give anything good. Unless you ask for love of God or devotion. But if one has approached Shiva, he generally doesn't ask for those things. So Shiva was asking, what do you want? In other words, he's really saying, how do you want to be destroyed? So Vishvamitra said, I must have all the divine weapons that Indra has, Agni has, Varuna has. All of them must come to my mind, and I must control them. I must be a Rajarshi. Yes, you are a Rajarshi, Shiva said. Now stop doing austerities, because it is burning my body. Go. Then Vishvamitra immediately flew to Vaishishta's ashram. Vaishishta was having an oil bath, having oil massage. When someone is having an oil on his body, you're not supposed to talk to him. Vishvamitra did not even give him a challenge or anything. He immediately started doing all the astras on Vaishishta. Vaishishta was sitting there getting oil on his body, and the first thing that Vishvamitra threw was a brahmastra. Suddenly so much heat in the mustard oil. Whoa. Vaishishta said, it's not that hot. So then Vaishishta looked over his shoulder and saw the brahmastra. My God, what is he doing? Who taught him these weapons? He doesn't know where to put them. He's throwing them here, but I am having an oil massage. Vishvamitra stopped doing this nonsense. Then came the Agni Shastra, and then the Vayu Astra. They were all coming one after another. This is too much, Vaishishta said. And he looked around and he saw his walking stick, which was getting old. So he took that and he threw it out. Then he continued with his massage. The walking stick came out and faced the brahmastra. The brahmastra touched this walking stick and it became like ice and fell down. Then came the Agni Shastra, which came emanating so much fire and all the trees were burnt. But when it faced the stick, the astra was pulled down. Then the Vayu came, and the astras that he learnt from Lord Shiva were all used up, pulled down by the stick. Then the stick started moving towards Vishvamitra, and Vishvamitra started running. As he crossed the area of the ashram, the stick went down, and Vaishishta kept it. Then Vishvamitra sat up and was thinking, that is just a stick that he uses for walking. What will happen if he takes a bow? What will happen to me? So this Rajarshi is no good. I will become a Brahma Rishi. So he wanted to become a Kshatriya, and he said, it's not good enough. Now I need to become a Brahma Rishi. The Brahma Rishis have more power. These are lectures by a devotee named Atmatattva, who studied all these other shastras about Ramayana. And they were transcribed, so I'm just reading from it. That's why it sounds almost like I'm talking. We'll just get through this chapter. So again he goes to the Himalayas, performs tapasya, and then Brahma comes to see him. What do you want? Why are you troubling me? I want to be a Brahma Rishi. Well, I am Brahma, and I'm telling you, a Rishi. And I'm calling you a Rishi, so you're a Brahma Rishi. You be satisfied. Vishvamitra said, no, Vaishishta should say it. So Brahma brought Vishvamitra to Vaishishta and said, please call him Brahmarshi. Please call him a Brahma Rishi. Vaishishta looked at him and said, what a great tapasya you have done. After all, you are a Kshatriya. You're supposed to be enjoying your senses. Simply by my challenge, you have become a great Rishi. Why Brahma Rishi? You are Jnana Rishi, the Rishi of saintly people. You are worshipable by me. Now Vishvamitra, you stop your austerities. So he stopped, and he became well known as Brahma Rishi, and was moving around. Now, Trishanku, who was in the Ishvaka dynasty, suddenly developed desires, go to the heavenly planet. Anyway, that just goes on and on and on. Stories like this. Anyway, that was a taste. It's getting late. That was a taste. You want me to read everything, right? Is Ram having his own planet? Yeah. In the spiritual? Yeah. Ayodhya. Where's devotees ending up? Yes. Even some devotees of Lord Gauranga were devoted to Lord Ram. Yes. And told Lord Chaitanya that they're what to Ram? Yeah. The highest planet in Vaikuntha Loka is Ayodhya. And that's where Ram stays. So if you worship Ram, if you're a Ram Bhakta, that's where you'll go. But fortunately, Hanuman also entered Ram-lila as Marai Gupta. So not only was he in Vaikuntha, but he was also in Navadvip. So that's also possible. So he was blessed. He was blessed by Mahaprabhu to join his Sankirtan movement as Marai Gupta. So that's there also. Okay, so why don't we end, because it's late for me. And Hare Krishna to all of you. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari. I'm going to give a talk on Lord Rama at 5 o'clock, Alachua time, New York time. Let's just kind of summarize everything we've spoken about in the last few days. If you're interested in hearing it again, then you can tune in to Alachua Live or something like that. Yeah, I'm not going to put it on I won't put it on my Facebook page, but Alachua Live should have it. Something like that. Hare Krishna.